Hi guys, Kraus here. This is another Falcon 4 BMS tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to be going over some more advanced features of planning a package. This video comes on request of Hatoru Zoku, who had commented on my original package planning video, which you should watch before you watch this one. And he had asked to see some more advanced functionality in regards to planning a package. So he specifically asked to see the functionality for an EF-111 or other electronics warfare aircraft, to see that, how that's implemented in BMS. For those that don't know the theory behind it, it's possible for an electronics warfare aircraft such as an EF-111 Spark Vark or EA-6 Prowler to point a directional jamming radar at another radar and to disrupt this functionality. What that allows you to do is you can suppress enemy air defense radars within a large area, and then you can penetrate airspace that you otherwise wouldn't be able to because it's too dangerous. So in this video, we're going to set up a raid on like a nuclear plant or maybe a radar station, and we're also going to include in that package a flight that will jam the enemy radars and render them ineffective, and we're also going to include an escort for those ECM aircraft. And we'll probably do some more advanced package stuff at the end of this video, but that's the first part we're going to start with. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start a Tiger Spirit campaign, and this is in the Korea theater. And I want to find some ECM aircraft and some fighter aircraft and some strike aircraft. So I know that Hitaru had asked to see some EF-111s, but in the Korea theater, by default, there is only Prowlers. There's EA-6s. But for purposes of this video, they have the exact same functionality as the EF-111s, except in one important regard. The Prowlers can actually do seed as well, so they can actually carry and shoot harms. But that's not where their strength lies. I mean, an F-16 can do that. That's not a big deal. But they can jam and do ECM just like a Spark Vark can do. Traditionally speaking, in Falcon, the Spark Varks are included in European theaters, and the Prowlers are included in Pacific and Asian theaters. If you want, you can add an EF-111 squadron to any campaign by using TAC Edit, but that's a topic for another video. So what I'm going to do here is I need to find an ECM squadron, strike squadron, fighter squadron. So we have the 136th out of Seoul. They're a EA-6 Bravo, which is Prowlers. And then to the west we have the 14th Squadron F-16 out of Kimpo and the 67th Squadron F-15 Charlie out of Kimpo. So what I'm going to do to start off is I'm going to disable the ATO for all three of those squadrons. And I wouldn't recommend doing that in general. After you plan your package, you should probably turn the ATO back on, because at least for the squadrons that you're not going to be flying out of regularly. And that's because you don't want to keep all those aircraft grounded when they could otherwise be tasked by the AI to actually do stuff that is needed by the campaign. Otherwise, you might lose the campaign. So just going to turn off the HQ for those three squadrons. That's not what I want. I want the order of battle. And let's go ahead and turn them off for the ones out of Kimpo as well. Okay, now we're good. Let's go and run the clock forward a little bit. Excellent. Now let's find us a target. Alright, so looking around immediately, I see some juicy targets that will probably be heavily defended. Got two nuclear plants right here. One here, the Pakchon, and one to the east of that, Yongguan, both of which are going to be heavily defended by SAMs. But there should be more heavily defended targets. And I want to pick the most heavily defended target to basically show you how ridiculous and how decisive ECM can be in an actual package. So this looks pretty damn heavily defended. This is Wonsan, I think. What is this? Oh, it's Ham Hung. Okay, we have Ham Hung here. Ham Hung is heavily defended. I see at least 5 SAM batteries that are overwatching this nuclear plant. So this would actually be a great target. We could also, if we really wanted to make it more challenging, we could probably take out this Hamju headquarters, which is another super heavily defended area. And I guarantee you there's probably bandits on Toxon, which I'm going to check right now. Okay, so there's no bandits there on the target area itself. That's out of range, pretty much. Okay. Iwan is... Okay, so there's a MiG-23 squadron out of Iwan to the northeast. We'll put a threat steer on that. Put a airbase threat steer on that. Or base defense zone, whatever you want to call it. That's potentially a factor. Huang Suwon, also MiG-21s out of there. And that's pretty much it as far as bandits are concerned. Okay. Now let's draw up. Let's go ahead and draw up these air defenses. We have SA-2s. We have another SA-2. What is that? There's ships there too. What sort of ships are those? Oh, those are OSAs. OSAs aren't that dangerous. I mean, they are if you're flying low, but not so much if you're at high altitude. This is probably another SA-2. Surprise, surprise. And again, you know, you always want to do this before you plan a package. You want to get an idea of what's in the area. And you also want to, once you actually put the package down, you also want to check the briefing to see if there's anything unstated that might be in the area. That's an SA-3. That's not really in the threat area. It's another SA-2. Lots of SA-2s, guys, and they're all overlapping on that target. And that leads me to believe that that's their main thing that they're defending by being in that area. We'll put down some man-pad rings on the actual OSAs just so we try to avoid those. So, what is that? Is that an SA-5? No, it's an SA-3. It's somewhat in the area of operations. Let's go ahead and include that too. And I don't see any SA-5s. Which is weird. They usually have SA... Oh, there's one. It's probably just going to be a factor. Yep, just on the edge of the target area. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn threat circles off. So now we can see this is literally a hornet's nest. This is hell on earth. You would not want to fly in here without serious seed and without some serious backup. The bandit situation is not that bad. I mean, it could be bad. There could be MiG-23s and MiG-21s intercepting us. But the really big threat that I see is all of these SAMs. There's at least 6 SAMs directly overlapping on the target. You know, that SA-5 is probably a minimal threat because it's such a long-range shot, and the SA-5s are pretty shitty. All those SA-2s in the area can hit the target. And if we fly too low, we're going to have problems with the OSAs as well. And there probably is other stuff in Ham Hung that we can't even see. So all of those things are going to cause complications. Luckily for us, we have prowlers. Alright, so now let's get down to the nitty-gritty details of planning this package. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the strike package elements. We're going to make the 3 flights attached to the package. So what I'm thinking is we'll have a 4-ship strike, 4-ship seed escort, and a 2-ship escort. I would like to have a 4-ship escort, but they're only going to give us 10 ships because it's a 12-ship squadron, and they always reserve 2 of the fighters for alert duties. Then we'll have a 2-ship prowler ECM flight and a 4-ship F-15 HAV cap, which is a high-value escort cap. So I'm just going to right-click on the nuclear plant, and let's go ahead and... That's not what I want. I want this. Okay. So this is where we're taking off from. We're taking off from Seoul and then Kimpo's to the west. I'm just going to use the ruler and I'm going to get a rough idea of how far away this is from... So it's 151 miles to the target, linear, but we're not going to be flying linearly. We're going to be flying, it'll be a little bit longer than that because we're going to be coming in from the water. So that will be about 25 minutes to fly that distance. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to do add package. Let's take off at 8:25, and then we'll add 25 minutes to that. So the time on target will be 8:50. And first things first, let's select the F-16 Block 50s out of Kimpo for a 4-ship strike. Target being the Hamhung nuclear plant, looks good. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a seed escort, and they're going to be, if for whatever reason the ECM fails, the seed escort will deal with any SAMs that are still active. And what's important here is that you set the target to be Weasel 1, which is the strike. This way they'll provide a seed escort on the strike specifically, not the whole package or other nearby flights. So that's set. Then we want to have an escort, and the same thing for target, you want to set that to Weasel 1 as well. And they gave us 2 ships, which I figured would be as much. Now that we have the main... So this is normally what you would be doing, right? But since it's an advanced tutorial, we're going to add in the ECM now. So let's go ahead and select EA6s. And the EA6 squadron is only 4 ships. The entire squadron is 4 ships. We could potentially use 1 ship for this whole mission. I'm going to be on the safe side. I'm going to use 2 ships. And it's good. The mission role will be ECM. And the target will be north of Hamhung. We're going to adjust the target once we actually get in, so that's fine. That looks good. Then what we want to do is we want to get F-15 Charlies to escort those Prowlers. Out of Kimpo, we have the 67th. We'll do a 4-ship, and we'll do a half-cap. Half-cap is, as I said, it's like a high-value escort mission where they'll stay really close to the target that you have the half-cap set for. It's usually used on tankers and J-stars, and they're going to follow a close escort. They won't go too far from the people they're escorting, and they'll make sure they stay alive. The target here is going to be Prowler 1, and that's because we want to select the Prowler flight. There we go. 4 ships fine. Good. Now, the default... Let's see. Let's go ahead and check this package out. It's package 5003. Check out the strike ingress plan. So this ingress plan is okay. The egress plan is horrible because we're going to be ingressing through some threats unnecessarily, and we're going to be penetrating their airspace unnecessarily while flying very close to SA-3s that could fire on us, and we're going to be egressing over extremely heavily defended airspace. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that. But first we sort of need to understand the general anatomy of this operation. So, you know, how is this all going to work out? The way it should work out is that we should have the ECM come on station first, and the half-cap should be right behind them, like 30 seconds behind them. Then behind them should be the seed escort, the strike, and then the escort. So another thing is, like, looking at this, I think the best way to do it would be to ingress from the southeast, and that's because there's no threats out here in the ocean. We can come in from the southeast and then flow in northwest and then come off south. That would be the best way of doing it. And so we'll use this box, the 09 box, and for reference, 09 is not a grid coordinate. This actually tells you the maximum altitude of terrain in that box, which would be 900 feet. We're going to use the 09 box as our push point area. So let's go ahead and just set up the strike and seed escort and escort first. So as usual, we're going to lock all steer 1s for every single flight. I don't want to have to deal with that getting messed up. Lock all the steer 1s. Then let's go to Weasel 1, which is the strike. And let's put the push point like right there. That looks fine. And let's put... That's all fine, the way that looks. And let's get the seat escort. And turn on steer point line so we can see where that was. Steer 2 there. That looks fine. Actually, now that I look at it, that doesn't look fine. Let's go back to the strike for a second. We're going to change their ingress route so that we're going to not overfly this SA2 directly and the OSIS directly. We'll change it so it's like this. That's way better. And we'll also change the egress route so it's like that. So let's go to do the same on the escort. I'll just turn on steer lines again so we can see the overlay. Or sorry, the seat escort. And then what we'll do, move this to here, move this here, move that there. And then you got to do the same thing for the escort. Move this to here, move this to here. Move the egress so it's not stupid, just like that. So we're going to be coming in from the southeast. We're going to be threading a needle here. We will be very close to the SA2, but it shouldn't be a factor because of the seat escort and the ECM. I'm also moving the egress that way as well. Alright, that looks good. Now let's go and check out the ECM flight. ECM push point is here. So, as you can see, I don't know if you can see this, it's very cluttered, but they have 2 patrol points where they're going to be actually jamming. This is no good. As we said, the ECM does not have to be exactly on the target. In fact, it has like a 50-mile range. I don't know the exact range. I don't know if anyone does either. But it's like a 50-mile range. It's a massive range, and they don't have to be anywhere near the target in order to jam all those SAMs. They can be out in the middle of the ocean. So what we're going to do is we're going to fundamentally change this flight plan. We don't need a steer 3. That's useless. So let's go ahead and delete that. And then we're going to move steer 3 and steer 4 to there. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to fly a jamming patrol between steer 3 and steer 4. And I'm just going to change claw as well to do that. Move steer 2 to the push point. Delete steer 3. Let me get a new steer 3. And what I'm going to do for these guys is I'm going to put their patrol pattern a little bit ahead of the prowlers, but by not much. Ultimately, they're always going to stay with the prowlers. That's what they're going to focus on. Okay, now let's check the times. So again, the order of the package should be ECM should arrive, the half cap should arrive, the seat escort should arrive, the strike should arrive, and then the escort should arrive. So let's check the strike times. That's what we're going to base everything off of. The strike TOT right now is 8:50. Okay. The seat escort time is 8:46. And the escort time is 8:46. Okay, why? It looks like the strike is going to be on the target before. Okay, the target time for the strike is 8:50, and the seat escort is, that's Cobra, 8:46. Okay, that means that the escort and the seat escort will be on target 4 minutes before the strike is, or about 3 minutes, and then the strike will roll in and hit the target. That's fine. I mean, it could be tweaked. Ideally, you want there to be like a minute between each action, because that's how, when you're attacking a heavily defended airspace, you want to be in there as little as possible. but that's fine because we're not really flying with humans, and it'll be okay. For the ECM, let's check them out. So they're going to be at steer 2, which is basically their target time, right? Their target time is basically steer 2 because we want them to be actively jamming by the time they get over that steer point. Because this area here is where the jamming really needs to take place. So we need them to be there by the time the seat escort is in hot. So the seat escort, again, in hot at 8:46. That means that I want them at their, I want the Prowlers at their steer 3 by 8:45. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use steer 3 as their TOT, so to speak, target time. I'm going to change that to 8:45. And we're going to do a 10-minute patrol. So they'll be there from 8. Hold on, what did I do? Okay, that's fine. So we're going to be doing from 8:45 to 8:55, they're going to be jamming. And let's check. And we need to be jamming until the Viper, sorry, not Viper, the Weasel flight gets to their egress point. So the egress point, okay. Alright, let me explain what I just did, okay? I selected the strike flight, and because the strike guys are going to be the last guys out, okay? So their egress point is steer 7. That's basically where they're going to meet up with the package of the egress. Their egress time is 8:57. So what I'm going to do is I want to be jamming until at least 8:57. That's so all the guys that go into the strike, they're protected. So I'm going to go back to the ECM flight. And I see they're going to start jamming at 8:45. And they have a 10-minute jam, which means that's not long enough. Because 10 plus 45 is 55. So let's make that into 12 minutes. 12-minute patrol. Okay. That means between steer 3 and steer 4, they're going to be flowing around there for 12 minutes. Just jamming, jamming, jamming. By 8:57, they're going to stop jamming and then they're going to RTB. Which is fine. And we also need to reflect that in Claw as well. So Claw's TOT is going to be 8:45 as well. And they're also going to do a 10-minute patrol. Or what was it? It wasn't 10 minutes. It was 12-minute patrol. Good. So that means by 8:45 we'll have the F-15s right here, the Prowlers right here, and then 1 minute behind them you're going to see the seat escort here at the push point in this general vicinity, and then the whole F-16 squadron or flight is going to fly in behind them. So you're going to have 10 F-16s flying in behind them, which should be good. Next thing we want to check off is the takeoff times for Claw and Prowler. So it looks like Claw's taking off 7 minutes later. I don't know why that is. Let's see. I want them to be in the air at the same time, so I'm going to change Claw. Prowler's taking off at 8:21. Let's change it so Claw's taking off at 8:21 as well. So it's just going to be a slow flight to steer 2, and that's because, you know, it doesn't take them that long to get there. I accounted for 25 minutes because, you know, that's for getting to the target, but it doesn't take them that long to get to steer 2. So that's fine. They'll just do a really slow flight over to steer 2. What I could do to improve the air speeds is I could Rolex the entire package so they attack sooner. But I'm too lazy to do that, and it's fine as is. So that looks good. So they're going to take off at 8:21. They're going to be on target 8:45. Prowler's taking off 8:21. They'll be on target 8:45. Let's go check the guys over here. So Cobra is the escort, right? Yeah, Cobra 1. Cobra 1's taking off 8:22. Behind them is going to be the escort at 824 and the strike at 826. TOT for the seed is 846, 848 for the escort, and 850 for the strike. I don't like being on target for 4 minutes. It should be fine, actually. It's a heavily defended airspace, so we sort of need some time to fight our way in there. I'm going to make the TOT for the strike the same as the escort. Or, yeah, I'm going to make the TOT for the strike the same as the escort. And the reason for that is that will give the seed 2 minutes to seed the target, and then the escort and strike will have 2 minutes on the target as well. So on the strike, I'm going to change the TOT to 848. Good. So now the seed and the escort will be on target at the same time, which is pretty much what it should be anyway. And the seed will be there 2 minutes earlier. And 1 minute before that, you'll have the ECMs on station. Okay, last thing we need to do is for the ECM, there's 2 different things that they can do to jam, okay? There's an in-route action and there's an action on steer point. Now, jamming doesn't take their attention away, so they can be jamming while they're flying from one steer point to another. So for every single steer point, we're going to have them jam. There's no reason to do an in-route non-jamming. So for steer 2, in-route action jamming. Steer 3 is jamming, 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 jamming. Steer 5, in-route action, jamming. Action is split. We're not going to be changing the action. We're just going to change the in-route action to jamming. So, let's see. Jamming, jamming, jamming. So the whole time they're flying, other than the steer points for landing and taking off, they're jamming. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do, and I really wasn't going to do this because, you know, it's a detail that we already went over in the first video, but I will go over it in this video as well, is the loadouts. So let's start with the seed escort, right? They should have harms. Okay, I can see here the AI gave them CBUs, and that's a no-go because we're not going to be dropping cluster bombs. I'm going to give them 2 tanks instead so they can maneuver faster. And the air-to-air loadout's fine. The escort's fine. They have 2 heaters and 4 long sticks. I give them tanks as well. And the strike. Okay, this is a retarded loadout. The strike has AGM-65 Gulfs. Now, these can be used against buildings, but they're not ideal. So let's give them some GBUs. I have no idea why the AI selected that. Let's give them some GBU-24s and tanks. By default, the steer points will call for a medium altitude ingress and attack. Normally, that would be like a suicide in a mission like this without the ECM. But, you know, considering we have a 4-ship seed escort, considering we have the ECM, they can do a normal altitude attack fine. It won't be a big deal. Now, for the ECM, they can only carry jammers and harms. So you can see here they have 5 stations for jammers. I'm going to load them all out with jammers. They can carry tanks, but we already have a lot of fuel as is, so we're fine. Now, you can see here they can carry harms, but they'll only use the harms if they're in a seed escort capacity or in a seed strike capacity. And that's not the strength of this aircraft. The strength of this aircraft is jamming. F-16s, F-18s, F-15s, they can all they can all shoot harms. Actually, the F-15 can't, but the F-16, F-18 can shoot harms. They do that role fine, and you don't need this aircraft to shoot at radars. That, you know, the other aircraft don't have jammers. These guys do. So we're going to just leave them a bunch of jammers. And the F-15 loadouts is probably fine. They're always fine for AI usually. They rarely fuck those up. Yeah, that's fine. I could give them a little bit more fuel. I'll give them a centerline tank. And that looks fine. So, last thing I like to do is I like to pick the flight that's in the heaviest part of the fighting, and I like to check the briefing from them. That'll tell me if there's any threats that I missed during the threat analysis.
All right, listen up.
Okay, so I see here that there's SA-10s 5 nautical miles south of Yongso-dong. That is very alarming to me. Let's find Yongso-dong on the order of battle. So many names. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so that's right in the area of operations, and it said 5 nautical south. I guarantee you it's on top of this mountain, but I'm going to use the ruler to make sure. Yep. There's an SA-10 right here. That is a massive threat to the package. And it's guarding this radar station here, the Yongso-dong radar station. That being said, it is going to be at a max range shot, and it will be hopefully suppressed by the ECM. And potentially the Seed escort can take a shot or two at them as well. So I'm not too worried about that SA-10. The mission for it is probably to defend the radar station anyway, so they probably won't be trying to aggressively shoot at aircraft at max range. So I'm pretty happy with all this. Final thing I always do is I always just go through all the steer points, make sure they're not retarded. None of the flight airspeeds are retarded or any of the steers are broken. They all look good. Check out Prowler. Prowler's good. You know, the only real flaw in this design of this package is that the Prowler and the F-15s are going to be at a slow airspeed, but that shouldn't be a big deal because they're probably not going to be in contact anyway, and they'll speed up if they are. Yep, that looks fine. That all looks fine. Alright. Let's save this, and let's run it. So, let's go ahead and select the ECM. So at 8:21, these guys should take off. And then the F-15 should take off at the same time. There they are. See the F-15's there and the Prowler there. Okay, so the package is now attacking the target. You can see the F-15's flying a cap right ahead of the ECM, and the Prowlers are currently jamming. All of these SAMs are probably suppressed right now. There's no way to tell from this screen, but you'll know if the package takes any casualties. That's the way we'll know. So, Seed Escort is in now, in hot, and comes in the target, is off. Here comes the escort and the strike. Flowing out. You can see here the the ECM and the F-15s are still flying a patrol. And there's the last of the F-16s. You see them immediately start flying home after that, right after 8:57. Yep. Let's see. So they're still flying a little patrol there. And now they're going to return to base. You see there's some MiG-21s that have launched to actually intercept these guys. See, here comes the F-15s engaging them. And that's the end of the package. Let's see what we hit. Did we hit the target? So target is completely destroyed. And I'm pretty sure we didn't take any casualties, although the F-16's already landed, unfortunately, I think. Yeah, the F-16's already landed. I'm fairly certain we didn't take any casualties. The only flaw I noticed in executing that was the steer 2 times should have been a little bit later for the F-16s, and that's because the whole package arrived at the same time, and I sort of wanted the ECM and the F-15s to be there about 2 minutes early, but that's fine because they were jamming the entire time anyway, and they remained jamming there until the F-16s flew out. Let's check out the BDA on the actual SAMs to see if they fired any harms. So all these SAMs still have their radars, and that points to the fact that they were being jammed. And you can see there's a lot of moving mud on that target. There was engineers there, tank battalion, all sorts of shit. HQ battalion. I'm just checking all these SAMs, see if they fired any harms. This one had harms fired at it. This SA-2 here on the east side of the target area had harms fired at it. Other than that, they didn't really have a need to fire any harms. Yep. That. And the SA-10 is invisible, which means it didn't even light up, didn't turn on, and start emitting. So that package was a success. So if you guys like this video, I'll do another follow-up video on another advanced type of package planning. But there you are for ECM.